Hey everybody, how are we doing tonight? This is United versus Everybody. I am your host Sean. How are we all doing tonight? Are we all still buzzing? I hope I'm still buzzing. I don't know about any of you guys. I mean, it's hard to move past a big derby win like that. But and honestly, should we have to move past it? We get bragging rights for a while, and we're gonna hold on to those bragging rights. We've got two on Pep in the last two derbies. Amorim's got two in his last two matches against Pep. So for now, bragging rights are all ours, and I am absolutely here for it. Inject that to my veins. Hit that like button if you are still buzzing about the Derby win yesterday. True to my word, I did rewatch it this morning while I was working out because why not? I rewatch pretty much every match just to get another look at it. Some of it I do rewatch for fun. I've probably watched that FA Cup quarterfinal against Liverpool about 4 times now. I did watch the FA Cup final a couple times, mostly because I couldn't watch it live and I wanted to watch it again. But why not, right? Why? How's everybody doing tonight? Hopefully doing well. Is this a good time for everybody? I know. I feel like I've kind of found a good time slot, a good niche, kind of that 6:30. So it works really well for me. Most of the day's done. Everybody's kind of chilling. My wife and I eat dinner early. We're trying to get a head start on being old, so which is why as well. But um, we're doing good. Also, West Ham did us a favor tonight by picking up a draw against Bournemouth 1-1. That helps us actually. A win and some good results could jump us up to even like sixth place next match week. But we'll see. I'm not going to be getting ahead of myself on that regard. But it is good to see that the table is really, really crazy. That just if we could just string together a couple results, because that's really what it's about right now. Just start putting together some wins. If we could do that, that would be a big, big help for us. So hopefully we get that done. We're going to dive into the nitty gritty though, because despite the win, despite all the hype and the buzz and the positivity, there was a big talking point ahead of yesterday's derby. The noticeable omission of Marcus Rashford and Alejandro Garnacho from the matchday squad altogether, not just out of the starting 11, the matchday squad. We touched upon it a little bit last night when we were talking about the team selection. I didn't want to go into too much detail last night, though. I didn't want to sour the positivity of the result, the big win, the performance at the end. But I thought I'd save it for today because it is a big topic, and obviously everyone's talking about it today. There's been a lot of stuff popping up in the news. Amorim had a lot to say about it before the match, after the match. And I know probably maybe some of you are tired of talking about it, but I really want to know your views. I really want to know what you guys think of the whole Rashford Garnacho situation. Today, I want to talk about these players. I want to talk about why I think both of them are really at a crossroads. They're at different points in their career, but they're both at a very similar crossroads right now in terms of their professional lives, their Manchester United career, their personal lives, just their own personhood as well. I think that there's a lot going on for both of them right now. I think that the decisions need to be made both by Ruben Amorim, both by Manchester United, the owners, and by the two players themselves. So that's what we're here tonight to talk about. Sports predictions. How are you doing, my friend? Good to see you. How am I doing? I'm been well, man. Just chilling, just living the dream. Not really feeling. I don't know where you live, sports predictions, but I live in Michigan, and for people like me with allergies, with sinuses, living in the Midwest is rough because it's middle of December and it's been like mid 40s, rainy, foggy. My sinuses have been killing me, but this was right smack dab in the middle of like almost a week of below freezing weather, and then we're moving back into another week of below freezing weather. So my head's loving it. But I hope you've been good. Good to see you again. We're going to talk about Rashford and Garnacho. Hit the like button, subscribe, get your thoughts in, get your questions in as we sit down to have a chat that, we don't really want to have, but we need to have it anyway as fans. So we're going to jump right in. So again, just to recap, the news broke ahead of kickoff yesterday that Rashford and Garnacho were not in the matchday squad for this weekend's derby. As Roy Keane said, it was a big call by Amorim in his first derby to leave out players who were influential in the last one that we won, both the FA Cup final. Both those players played a part in that, obviously. Garnacho picking up a goal, Rashford picking out a really good switch of play to find Garnacho on the right wing, I believe. But Amorim was insistent after the match and before that neither of these players were dropped for disciplinary reasons. A lot of speculation going on about leaking team news 24 hours ahead of time, this and that. A lot of people were jumping to conclusions. Garnacho is a leak, Rashford is a leak, this and that. Amorim himself said it's not a disciplinary thing. What he did say, again, he said they're fighting for places, but for me, it's important the performance in training, the performance in game, the way you dress, the way you eat, the way you engage with the teammates, the way you push your teammates. They have to fight for a place in the team. And today, the team proved that we can leave anyone outside the squad. You can manage to win if you play together. Maybe it's a simple matter of they're just not kind of going along with what's going on. Like I've said before, you're in a whitewater raft, you're in a canoe, everyone's got to be paddling the same direction. You've got a couple people who aren't, a couple people who aren't even paddling. It doesn't help. It hurts everybody. And I think that's the key message. I said it on a couple channels, like leaking team news, and I'm not accusing, I'm just saying about team news leaks in general. That hurts everybody. Your teammates, your manager, your club, the fans. It hurts everybody. For what? And for what? So he said if it is disciplinary, I would tell you guys, basically. And then it would be a bigger problem. But he says it wasn't that. I just want to improve my players. Sometimes you see that, you understand that for so long we try. For example, with Rashford, a thing that doesn't work. Let's continue to do the same thing or try something different. It's as simple as that. He says they have to work hard. You know what they're trying to do. They train really hard. It's a good thing. New week, new life. Let's see. So basically, it wasn't in the plan this week. Let's move on. He says the small details will make the difference. Again, he goes back to the things like the way they're eating, the way they're dressing, basically just their demeanor, their activities, their behavior. He kind of picks up on that. So it's one thing to drop players for poor form, right? Or even for like tactical reasons. If you're not going to start someone, like I can see if you're not wanting to start Rashford or Garnacho, if you're playing a team who sets up in like a low block, basically, they're not going to have room to run. That part of it, I guess, I get if that's the case, right? But dropping players from the matchday squad altogether because of the intangibles that Amorim has picked up on, and he's mentioned, like demeanor, application, interactions with teammates, just your overall just like disposition, basically. That's a different level altogether when it comes to management. We saw it with Ten Hag and Jadon Sancho. We've seen it from Enzo Maresca at Chelsea with Noni Madueke. It's not bullying, despite what the media or some Ten Hag outers or whoever will tell you. It's paying attention to your players. It's empathy. It's reading those things. People forget, and quite frankly, it's good management. It's good people management. People forget that before Ten Hag said that Sancho wasn't training well, and again, this wasn't Ten Hag throwing anyone in the bus. He was asked a direct question, and quite frankly, it shouldn't be a huge deal to simply say a player wasn't doing great in training. Like since when did that become the end of the world? That's another conversation. But people forget that before all that went down, Ten Hag did everything he could for Sancho. He gave him several weeks off to go work on himself he sent him off for the Netherlands to go focus on him, basically. And then when he came back, he attempted to play him in multiple different positions to try to find a way to get him into the team. Remember, Ten Hag didn't sign Sancho. Ollie did. And Sancho didn't perform well for Ollie either. Like, he didn't perform well for Ten Hag. It is what it is. But everyone wants to focus on the training remark that Ten Hag said. Rich, how are you doing, my friend? Good to see you. I know it's late for you, man. I appreciate you stopping by. Say hey. So like I said in my match reaction, when it comes to Amorim, picking up on some of these things from Rashford and Garnacho, some of these intangibles, some of these things that coaches, like, empathy is not natural for a lot of people. Like, it's not natural for me. That's why it's very hard for me as a mental health professional. It's something that I have to turn on because I'm also very introverted. So picking up on what other people are, their emotions, even when they're not speaking, maybe sensing when people are not mentally, emotionally there. That's a skill. Amorim seems like he has that skill. So what this tells me is that he can tell when players' hearts or heads aren't in it. And sometimes benching players is more about helping them than it is about helping the team. Sometimes a player just needs to take a step away. A week or two out of the spotlight isn't the worst thing at times. Maybe it's because Amorim was still a player not that long ago, so it's fresh for him. He knows kind of what that's like. He's still there, but who knows, right? Who's Sancho? I'm sure Chelsea fans can tell you who Sancho is, right? 25 million they're gonna give us for him. That doesn't seem. I mean, it's hard, right? You're at that place where you're just like, I'd pay someone to take him, but at the same time, you're like, come on, we paid like a lot of money for him, and we chased him for a year, but that's a whole other thing. It is what it is. So getting back to Amorim, it was some of the things that he said after the derby that weren't even about Rashford and them that were interesting to me. So he was asked about Anthony because Anthony's playing a wing back and he's kind of getting used to it. And Amorim was asked about that. He said a few things that I thought maybe could be extrapolated a little bit to the Garnacho and Rashford situation. He said, I think when we started, everybody is from scratch. We took like 1 month to explain that everything has a new beginning, and because every person deserves a new beginning, and the power is in their hands, because if they show it, I will put them into play. I just want to win. The players, they are responsible to play, not me. It's an interesting statement, right? I've heard many coaches say the players pick the team, right? And I definitely agree there. The way you train, the way you perform, your attitude, the way you interact with people, even the way you greet and treat the tea lady, the kit man. If you're rude to someone, like if I'm Amorim and somebody's being rude to like the kit man, I'm gonna be like, bro, go apologize or you're not playing. Like that's just the way it is. You don't treat people like that. I've always felt that the way you treat people that you don't necessarily have to treat very well says a lot about you as a person, whether it's waitress or whatever. These are people. People deserve to be treated a certain way. But however, if everyone had a clean slate when Amorim arrived, and just a month in, he's already dropping Rashford and Garnacho, that's really not a good look, right? I know some people say, like in Rashford's case, is it undeserved? We've all been kind of calling for him maybe to sit down for a little bit because it just wasn't his heart doesn't seem in it. He had a little purple patch earlier in October or so. So he may have gotten a clean slate under a new manager when Amorim was appointed. But I think I'd go back to my argument again when Amorim came in. These players don't all really necessarily need a clean slate. They've had like 6 clean slates, and the same ones have been showing us that doesn't really matter, that they don't really deserve a new one. And quite frankly, anyone with half a brain and one eye who's been watching United or following United over the last couple of years will automatically see who deserves a clean slate or not, man. It's ridiculous. Sports Chicken says, oh, they're going to pay 30 million. Well, we got bonuses too. I thought it was 25. Maybe it was 25 euros I saw. I don't remember. And so you guys let me know on that. Clean slate. Does anyone deserve it? Thoughts on Amorim's comments about Anthony, though the players basically are picking the team. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Let me know. This brings us, though, to Rashford and Garnacho specifically. We'll start with Rashford. So he's been struggling for a few years in terms of form on the pitch, right? And his numbers haven't been terrible. I know a lot of people will say, like, he's never been great. I've pointed out many times on the channel, I don't really feel like I need to address it a whole lot again or go into super detail. But his numbers as far as his goal involvements over the years since his debut have steadily been going up like this. Just been going boom, boom, boom. It took a dip, 21-22, but we like to forget about that black year in our club's history because that was not a great year for anybody. And then they were kind of regained where they were a little bit, peaking in 22-23, obviously. Now, last year, they took a big, big dip again. But this is also why the stats and the eye tests need to work together, because Rashford's performances, if you watch him play, it's one thing to look at the numbers and be like, looks like a decent player, right? Maybe a 40 million player. Definitely not worth 300K a week. But then when you watch him play, you're like, how in the hell is this kid scoring this many goals? Because doesn't look good. In the last couple of years, especially, we've seen him throw up his hands in frustration, slapping his thighs, looking around in very petulant attitude. He's pulling out of 50-50s. He's refusing to track back. Poor decision-making in the final third. Some of those things that he's just never, like Dallo, he's never really improved upon, et cetera, et cetera. And that's just his on-the-pitch behavior from Rashford. Now, again, I want to make sure I'm not trying to just pile on Rashford. I'm just kind of recapping everything right now and talking about this. Because that's just his on-pitch behavior. Off the pitch, his decision-making has also been suspect for several years. Night out in Dublin, that saw him get left out of the starting 11. Social media responses, like whether it's calling out YouTube channels or responding to someone on Twitter at like 1 a.m. The Players Tribune interview. Some of these kind of things, just to me, it's all poor decision-making. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And then for me, the thing I've been complaining about the most with Rashford in terms of the decision-making off the pitch was putting off that surgery that he needed when Ollie was still here because he wanted to go on England duty. He put that off to the detriment of his United season the following season because he had to take some time off to handle that. and that hurt us. It's club before country in my eyes. I get that he wants to go and play on England duty, but you have to learn how to see past just the next thing you want in front of you. You have to be able to be a little bit more wise about that, more discerning. Basically, you have to grow up. Children think in short term. Adults and professionals need to have a bit of foresight, need to have a bit of planning. Sometimes saying no today means you get to say yes many more times tomorrow, right? Or it's like playing pool. Sometimes the easy or obvious shot is not the best one in that moment. If you guys are playing pool, Rashford is 27. He should be a leader on the pitch. He really should be a leader in the dressing room. I know he's done a lot of work for children. He's gone up against the politicians, the government, and we applaud him for that. And I don't have a problem with any of that. But he's also remember that he's also a professional footballer as well, and he needs to be able to demonstrate that mindset and that professionalism at his job. And as far as I'm concerned, if Michael Richards think that that means the world is on his shoulders, and that's not fair, this comes with the territory. No one forced him to do this. This is part of it, and it absolutely comes with the territory when you play for Manchester United. Even if he leaves United, Rashford's still going to have to grow up in that way. He's still going to have to make those tough choices. He's still going to have to make a change in that regard, no matter where he plays. Oh, let's go catch up on the chat and see what everyone's talking about. Rich with United TV says, I think Amorim is ending player power, and I'm here for it. I think Amorim has been in the game recently enough to kind of have a bit of a feel for the player power aspect. And so he's like, y'all, I know all the tricks because I was around so many players who were doing them not that long ago. So y'all ain't about to fool me. We know exactly what's going on. None of this is going to last anymore. And now these players are like, oh shit, what am I going to do now? Sports Prediction says, bro, when Ruben people are losing their jobs at our club, we have to put the standards high. I felt that. Yeah, I felt that. We'll get back to that too. Felt that one right here. Sports Prediction says, as a United fan, I want to know, all I want now is a team that is very cohesive, that plays a team rather than a bunch of individuals. Garnacho is an individual. Rashford has become an individual. It's hard because as a person, even as a teammate, even as a player, yeah, you don't want to lose your individuality, but at the same time, you have to recognize that you also are part of a team. The question is, to me, it's not necessarily choosing either or. It's how do we make them work together? How do I bring my individualism to the team? How do I bring who I am that nobody else has, whether that's my personality or my playing ability, to the team and make it better? How do I fit like a jigsaw? How do I get rid of some things and add more things? And how do I fit in this team? I don't think we have the players we have. We target the players they have because of their individualism, because they have things that nobody else does. Otherwise, what would be the point of signing a player, right? Now, I get, like you're saying, mindset-wise, yeah, there needs to be a bit of selflessness. There needs to be a bit of pragmatism, something that you're working for, part of a team. I get that. I think that with Garnacho, as we're going to talk about, speaking of growing up, it's a little bit different of a case because he's very young. He's not 27. He's like 20, right? So I'm not excusing some of his unwise social media activity or some of his tardiness to team meetings early on in Ten Hag's tenure, but rather what I'm saying is he still has time to decide where his priorities lie as a person, as a footballer, and make those necessary changes. Choose what he wants to say no to, what he wants to say yes to. If you want to look long term and say yes to something, I want to have this career, you have to say no short term to a lot of things in order to get there. That's just part of it. Sports Fiction says, I'm both thinking, we score the most goals, crybaby, so why can't we? Or I walk around, stay high up on the pitch now that I don't want us to make that same mistake with Ahmad. Yeah, it's a lot of his mental. Again, I mean, we can speculate what's going on in their heads. That's just something we're never going to know, honestly. Trust me, like I said, I'm a mental health professional. I work with clients daily basis, and we're complicated, and it's not easy to figure out what's going on in people's minds because we can't figure out most of the time ourselves what's going on in our own minds. So it's very hard. I'm not going to try to speculate on that. I like to give people the benefit of a doubt, but being a footballer, especially at Manchester United, is a very hard-earned privilege. Not everyone's going to make it. You're taking up a spot. A lot of people, you're in a very, very minuscule percentage of people in the world who are ever going to play, let alone come through the academy and play. But it's a privilege that comes with demand. It comes with pressure. It comes with expectation. It comes with responsibility. It comes with sacrifice. Um, and unfortunately, like just like any young celebrity in the world, it does force you to grow up very, very quickly. And I get that there's a big part of that that just is not fair. I get it. But again, it's part of the job. It's part. No one forced you to this. You shook the man's hand. You signed the paperwork. You held up the shirt. That isn't the goal. That is when the hard work is supposed to start at Manchester United, especially. It used to be that way. As Rich implied, player power has kind of steered it away from that over the last decade or so. As a player, especially someone as young as Garnacho, you have to look at yourself. You have to look at your social circle. You have to look at your relationships, your hobbies, your family life, all of this kind of stuff. What do you do in your downtime stuff? What are you doing when you're not playing football? Because it trickles it bleeds into. There is no kind of delineation there. The way you are outside of football is going to bleed into the way you are in football, and vice versa. Sometimes that can be good, sometimes that can be bad, but at the end of the day, it always means you have to make tough choices. Sir Alex famously got rid of Lee Sharp. He crashed a house party at Lee Sharp's house, and basically decided Sharpie's not taking this seriously. He's got to go, because not only is he hurting himself, which hurts the team, but he's becoming a bad influence on other players. Ryan Giggs famously was at that party, hid under a bed when he heard Sir Alex coming, and decided basically, like, I have to make changes. I can't be doing this. I tell it to clients all the time. If you want to make wholesale changes in the future, you have to make wholesale changes in the present, which sometimes means there are some people you're not going to be able to hang out with. There's some places and things that you're not going to be able to do anymore because the two can't coincide. This is a big part of being a football. You have to make sacrifices. You have to say no. Sir Alex also came in, changed the drinking culture. In the 80s and stuff, footballers were just, it's show up to work, basically buzzed, play buzzed. You're done with the game, you shower, you go out to the bars, and you start all over again. That's basically what it used to be, and that needed to change. So Alex is one of the big proponents of nutrition and whatnot when he came in. Obviously, Arsene Wenger gets a lot of the plaudits for that, but they recognize the need for that change. So David Beckham, when the team wasn't performing, he ran like a cut-head chicken, and so did Wayne Rooney in our time. We have all seen it. Rashford and Garnacho has no excuse. And I think a big part of it, too, is the club. The club has not been great at kind of allowing some of this to happen. And this is what's going to happen in any organization. If people in charge are not paying close attention. Now, there's a difference between paying close attention and like micromanaging. If they're just kind of negligent of the way that things have been allowed to do, you see it all the time. My wife worked at a place where just among the leadership was this culture of entitlement and laziness and toxicity. And she's not like that in any way. My wife is one of the most hardest working, dedicated, strongest, just best people I've ever met. Constantly is impressing and amazing me on a daily basis. But she came in, tried to be that there, and she was quickly kind of forced out by these people because they didn't want to change that toxic. And leadership couldn't do anything because they'd let it get so far out of hand. We've got Amorim who's come in. We've got a whole new structure coming in. We've made some wholesale changes. Ineos have already shown that, yes, they can make decisions and then decide that those decisions were bad decisions and make changes. They did that with Ten Hag. They've done it with Ashworth as well. They have no problem making hard choices. And so that should send a message. Getting dropped from the matchday squad altogether should send a message. If it doesn't, something wrong. RSV, how are you, my friend? Says, my only issue is how are we going to get Salim with his wages being $300K a week and no other club is willing to give him that much wages unless it's a Saudi club. They won't offer United more than 10 million. I mean, there's lots of options. There are players at other clubs. If you go to like Capology or Transfer Market, you can see what other players are on. There are players at clubs like PSG, like Bayern and whatnot, who are on a lot of money. It doesn't just have to be a Saudi club. There are maybe Premier League. I wouldn't want to sell Rashford to a Premier League club, but there are other clubs that could do that. Heck, Garnacho could go back to Atletico if he wants to. Who knows? RSV said Mourinho literally got hounded out for calling out Martial, Pogba, Lingard, Rashford, and Shaw, but Ed Woodward protected the players by giving them enormous contracts who were viewed as commercial assets. Yeah, Woodward is all about the commercial right. Players to him were assets, and we're trying to protect the investment, basically. That's why Phil Jones was here for so long. That's why Martial never got sold, because the club at that point, the people in charge, the people who are making the most important decisions, mind you, just could not be bothered to open their eyes, gain a little perspective, accept the truth in some of this stuff. I'm not trying to bash any of these players. I'm just saying you can't not back a manager in a decision. Now, backing managers doesn't just mean buying players. It means in those kind of situations, if a manager comes in and says these players, their attitude's not right, this, that, whatever the manager says, you can have another conversation first and sit down and say, okay, well, what's the issue? Is this something we could talk about? Something we could figure out? Something which we can change? Or is there just no coming back with this? That's the kind of conversation needs to have before you make that other decision. But Mourinho wasn't granted that. This was at the peak of player power, and Mourinho didn't help himself by being such a volatile kind of personality, basically a narcissist. So it is what it is. You guys can't tell. Mourinho's not my favorite manager. It is what it is. I'm not going to bash the guy personally. I don't know him, but from what I've seen, that's what I'm saying. Sports Prediction says, what hurts more is that Rashford is a Man United fan, been here for 20 plus years. He knows this club. Breeds hard workers. That's what Man United is. We need to stop moving away from that. So here's the thing. I'm going to only go on with Garnacho for a little bit, and I'll come back to Rashford in a second. So on Garnacho, I get that the social media stuff is pretty much the norm these days. Like, just being on social media, there are people, honestly, who are like, Garnacho lives in a world where there's only been social media. Like, he's born in 2003. He only knows a world with smartphones and social media and all of this. Like, he never had to exist in a world without even cell phones. I remember before cell phones were around. I remember before the internet was a thing. I remember all that stuff. Facebook became Facebook when I was in college. Like, that's how old my old ass is. Garnacho only lives in that life. It's so crazy, right? And I get that that's the norm, right? Especially for guys his age. But before hitting the like button, before posting a message, before engaging on social media, before even watching things, because it can keep track of what you watch or see, just take a hot second and ask yourself, is this a good idea? How could this be perceived? How does this reflect on the club? How does this reflect on me? Is this post or this thing that I'm about to do or say, is this what I want others to think of me? Because you can choose what you do. You can choose the action. You can choose the behavior in those moments. You cannot take it back once it's out there. You cannot choose the consequences of that, especially at a club like United. Everything is going to be scrutinized. Everything is going to be looked at and spun, and everything is going to be poured over and reported on and reported on and reported on, whether you like it or not. It becomes a game of telephone. You guys remember that game of telephone? It becomes someone on TalkSport. It's just things. Oh, I bet, like, for instance, Lisandro Martinez. I don't buy these rumors that Madrid are looking at Lisandro Martinez. All that happened was literally someone on TalkSport was like, oh, Madrid need a defender. I think they should take a look at Lisandro Martinez. Next thing you know, it's an article. Madrid linked with Lisandro Martinez. Now everyone on social media, Madrid want Lisandro Martinez. Sean, I read that Madrid want Lisandro Martinez. No, that's not how it works. But this is what happens when anyone speaks about anything at Manchester United, even if it's not the player themselves actually doing it, even if it's just some random pundit somewhere playing the what if game while they're having a chit chat. This is how it works. You don't get that in any other club, but these players need to understand that. And again, it's not fair, but that's the way it is. Again, you can choose what you do. You cannot choose the consequence. You exist in a fishbowl at United 100,000 times more so than any other club. Every action you take, big or small, has tremendous impact. It sends ripples everywhere. That's just the way it is. Garnacho needs to learn that. He needs to really understand that. And it's really frustrating because he's been doing this kind of stuff multiple times. He needs to just stay off social media for a little bit altogether. If he doesn't, though, if he keeps this up, he keeps making these stupid situations where he's liking this or like whatever, the club might not even want to bother with it anymore because of, just like David Beckham. It wasn't a personal thing with David Beckham or even Pogba. It was just the circus that they have become at this club, the unwanted attention, which adds pressure to every other player at that club, the manager. One little thing that Garnacho might do on social media, it brings a tidal wave of pressure on everybody else at that club. Ineos, Amorim, teammates, everybody. All because somebody hit a like button on a post. This is the way it is, and this is what Garnacho needs to understand. It's just annoying, right? RSV says, player power was an absolute peak when Mourinho. Yeah, it was. That's what I said. Yep. Sports predictions. I don't agree with selling Rashford for 10 million because his wages are high. I know the experts will figure it out, but Rashford shouldn't be sold for anything less than 60 million pounds. Yeah, I feel like Rashford is definitely going to be worth more than some of the prices we've seen. I don't know where people are getting the 40 million from, but I think that's remarkably low for that kind of player. If you look at other players, similar numbers, similar age, Premier League proven, whatever. I mean, how much did Olise go for? And he's literally only had that one season at Crystal Palace, mind you. He wasn't a Manchester United player. His best season, like how I can't remember off the top of my head how much Bayern paid for him. It had to be like 60, 65, right? If Olise is going for that much, if some of these other players like Dewsbury Hall, Emil Smith Rowe are going for a certain amount of money, then Rashford's, despite what you might think about his attitude, his form, he's got to go for more than that. I think that in Garnacho's case, he has the potential to be a great player for this club if he wants to be. But the key there is if he wants to be, which again comes back to sacrifice, comes back to priorities, comes back to choices. I say it many, many times. It's one of my catchphrases in life if you know me in a personal level. Life is pretty simple. It boils down to three things, and those three things are priorities, choices, and consequences. You make your choices based on your priorities, and then there are consequences of the choices. Now, consequences sounds like it's a bad thing. Really, if it helps, try to look at it as cause and effect, because not all consequences are negative. But this is what it is: priorities, choices, and consequences. That's just life. What's pretty much what it is. If you're a professional footballer, your priorities are going to be different than if you're a doctor or a librarian or whatever. It's just the way it is. Sports Fiction says, "Sup, RSV bro, I hate is strong, but I hate Garnacho's ego with every fiber of my being. You're not fucking Ronaldo." I guess I don't look at it as ego in terms of Garnacho's case. I look at it as just a young guy who's got an idol and just wants to be like that idol. I can't say what his ego is because I don't know. He's precocious. Yes, he gets caught up in the moment when he scores and when we score. And he bigs up the rivals. He bigs up their opposition team. I think that to me is a case of a young person getting caught up in the moment. Personally, I couldn't tell you. Again, I try not to speculate too much on what's going on in someone's head if I can help it, just because I don't know and I don't want to say it in my opinion and call it fact. But you could be right. I don't know, man. I really don't. Sports Fiction says Garnacho was liking social media posts criticizing Martin as being too short, not jumping. Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. Some of the stuff he's done on social media, because it's not the first time. The tardiness, Ten Hag first got here preseason. Not a good look to be late to a team meeting for your brand new manager. Really not a good look. And he was punished for it, and Bruno called him out for it and stuff like that. He's very young still. Try to think back to the kind of decisions y'all were making when you were 20 years old, 19 years old, and I think we can all just hold our hand up and say, yep, some of that I would definitely take back if I could. Not excusing Garnacho's behavior. I'm just trying to add context to this, add another contributing factor to the situation. But that's what I mean when I say he has to learn. He's young, but this industry, this job, this life forces you to grow up in many ways. And he's going to have to, whether he likes it or not. The phrase I've seen a lot today, and I think Jamie Jackson first threw it out there with his article in The Guardian, cultural reset. Jamie even goes further to claim that Sir Jim is ready to sell Rashford as early as January in an effort to cut their losses. Because again, he's on those big wages, like you guys said, $300K a week. It's a lot. Not very, and that's pretty much what limits the options for him. He's literally got like a couple options. You could probably count them on one hand with a thumb to spare. But we're also aiming to move on players that are simply becoming passengers who maybe don't fit, who maybe are coasting, because everybody needs to contribute. It's a squad game. It's not just a starting 11 game. You have to have players who are ready when called upon. It's just always what it is. Jackson does go on to state that the club have hope for Garnacho, though, and that there is a way back for him in this team. It is possible. But he does claim that Rashford has basically been put up for sale as part of a cultural reset deemed necessary to transform the club after the standards had been allowed to basically dip over the last decade. Like you guys have been talking about player power standards. Jamie Jackson says it's not just players, it's the coaches, the non-football staff. Remember when Ineos came in, they did that audit and basically saw from the academy dressing room to the IT department at the non-footballing staff, like it was not where it needed to be for a professional organization of Manchester United stature. And so you guys can get mad about the redundancies, but sometimes if you're just not performing your job, if you're letting things slip, and you will be let go. That's just part of life. It's not just because Ineos are trying to save money or they're trying to pocket money. It's that if you're not performing at your job, and we're already operating at like 200 to 300 more staff than any other club in this league, that's a dangerous place for you to be a lazy individual at an organization. It just is. If I got staff members who aren't doing their paperwork, who are not doing a good job with their clients, they're constantly losing clients because they're just not good, then eventually that person's gonna have to get let go. It's just the way it is. Something that Sir Jim has said recently was that the previous rebuilds, the previous structures, previous managers were not supported by the previous regimes in terms of a proper rebuild, and that's made it very difficult for managers to succeed. Nobody really, the previous owners, Woodward, whoever you want to throw that blame at, they weren't serious about making the wholesale changes needed. They were happy to look like a big football club. They were very happy to spend like a big football club, right? Whether it's transfers or lavish this, that, and the other thing and perks. But they weren't ready to make it a serious football club. Again, they just kept repainting the car without actually changing the oil, changing the engine, whatever they needed to change. They were just happy to keep it looking like a brand new. They're happy to pay for the wax, not happy to pay for the oil change. That's just the way it was. Sports Prediction says Garnacho thinks scoring an overhead kick goal puts him on the level as club legend. The brother hasn't even done shit all. I mean, if he thinks that, then he's mistaken. I really don't know if he does. I really couldn't tell you if that's what he thinks. It was a good goal. It is nominated for the Puskás. Go vote for it if you want. Maybe Sports Predictions isn't going to vote for it. That's up to you, my friend. Sports Fiction says, no, Sean, we all been young, bro, and getting our own way. Yeah, we have. I'm trying to remember now what I was doing when I was Garnacho's age. I was in college, probably skipping class, probably not, probably procrastinating, probably staying up playing Halo all night with my roommates or Madden, or sneaking onto the football field at the campus where I was at in the middle of the night to play 5v5. I mean, we do stupid things when we're young. I mean, I could have gotten kicked out of school for getting caught doing that. It is what it is. Garnacho's playing professional football. I mean, I can't compare, right? Sports Fiction says, Garnacho was full of himself. My mom used to say, no matter how far you go in life, never forget your humble beginnings. Don't let achievements go through your head, son. Make sure you think your shit don't stink. And maybe this is an opportunity for Garnacho to kind of get that reality check. We're not born with the knowledge. It sounds like Sports Predictions, you were fortunate to have, a mother who's kind of teaching you those things. We don't all have that. We don't get to choose our parents in many cases. And I don't know anything about Garnacho's parents. I'm just pointing out the instance. We're not born knowing how to do these things. We're not born perfect. We have to learn. Sometimes learning comes from hard lessons, comes from making mistakes. I've always said the most important part of a mistake is what you learn from it. Are you teachable in that moment? Are you looking at it as an opportunity to make some changes? These are teachable moments for these players, Rashford and Garnacho. As a player in these moments, can they be humble? Can they be selfless? Can they be open enough to be teachable, coachable, for the sake of their teammates, for the sake of their manager, for their fans, for the sake of themselves, really, as a human being? I've said a big part of why I'm trying to do this course with the PFA, why I look so hard into scouting and things, why I'm a PFSA member, is I see the correlation between like scouting and talent identification and working with young players and just growing up as a person. There are many things that I think that if these young academy players like Garnacho or even younger start to learn and address at a young age, it sets them on a better trajectory and puts them on a better place when they do get to the professional level to handle things like this a little better. I want to help people get skills at that age so they're better equipped when they get a little older, so they're not at Rashford's age still struggling with stuff, if that makes sense. So what next? What is in store here for Rashford and Garnacho this season? It seems neither have been deemed 100% essential, undroppable to the starting 11, obviously, which means their promise, their wages, tenure, homegrown status, none of that is going to put them above reproach anymore. That has changed. That culture has shifted. We've seen a huge shift in the status quo in that regard. both also play a position that Amorim's system doesn't really utilize, a winger position. We play, you can call them wingbacks. They are kind of wingbacks, but what the wingback role requires a lot of stamina, a lot of selflessness on and off the ball, tracking back. That number 10 role is you're not going to get the open space to run that Rashford and Garnacho want. You're going to have to learn how to move in tight spaces, how to pass before trying to dribble. Be selfless, basically. Look for someone else and not always try to be the last person to put the ball in the net. Neither of them have shown that. Garnacho, as Jamie Jackson implies, is young enough to maybe still come back for this. He's young enough to be molded, to change, to adapt, but it's going to be up to him if that's what he wants. So if that's the case, if that's not the case, I mean, what does that mean for them? Sean says, Sports Fiction says, Sean, you 100. About what, man? I say a lot. You're going to have to let me know what little nugget I might have hit a nerve with, because I don't know. I talk very much. Feel free to get your guys' thoughts and your opinions and even your questions as we go along here tonight. And don't forget to the like button, subscribe too, please. We're on the road to 3K. But let's say that Rashford and Garnacho, they've shown that maybe they don't want to change, they can't adapt to the system, and the club decides they're not for us. Amorim decides they're not going to work. Let them go. So does that mean, are they going to get sold? Are they going to get sold in January? Maybe in the summer? Maybe we'll give them a shot the rest of the season in some cases. Again, it's up to them. If they were sold, who are they going to go to? Like you guys have said many times, Rashford's on huge wages. Who wants the position that they play? What team needs wingers like that? Bayern, maybe. I know Gnabry, Coman, Sane is going to be gone for free, so that leaves just Tell and Olise, and I forget who else. I feel like I'm always forgetting someone at Bayern. I don't remember as far as wingers goes. Sports Fiction says, on what you said about younger people learning things at an early stage in life. Oh yeah, I mean, it's kind of what I do. Like I said, I'm a therapist, so I work a lot with younger guys. I've worked with them in a lot of different capacities. I've coached like soccer teams and whatnot. I see it all the time. I was a young guy once before, and I wish when I was that age I had someone just to come up beside me, put an arm around me sometimes, tell me the hard things, things like that. And so trying to be that for other people if I can. But I see it because I'm so involved in football and so interested in it. I see the need for it there. As far as these two go, you'd imagine that the profit from selling either Rashford or Garnacho would be difficult too for Ineos to ignore as well. We know we sold McTominay, profit, Elanga, profit, Henderson, profit, and that was before Ineos. But you get the drift here. We need money. We want to rebuild. We want to do a proper rebuild. We don't have it because of PSR necessarily. I know I've seen some people say they don't believe we're skint. I believe that we have the money, but I don't think Ineos are just going to spend it unnecessarily. I think they're going to look for ways to make their money stretch far, because you still have to you could say we have money, but again, you still have to show that you're making money as well. You can't just say, well, I have 100 million, I can go spend 100 million. It doesn't work like that if you're still struggling to make ends meet with PSR, because you can't just spend 100 million if you still haven't met the requirements yet. That's just the way the Glazers have left us right now. But the profit from Rashford, for instance, could be a lot. I mean, we couldn't even get Ugarte in until we finalized McTominay's sale. That's where we were. I think that the profits also, it's hard for me to ignore it, and I'm just a fan because I want to rebuild. I want Amorim to get these players, like I said in my match reaction yesterday. I want us to start identifying young talent. We're already looking at young guys. I want us to start getting in players that fit the system. I want to start raising the floor of this squad in terms of effort, mentality, leadership, energy, quality, technical skill, all of that, whatever you want to call it. And that requires a rebuild. And so it's hard for me in that regard, looking at it through that lens as a fan, to ignore the kind of profit that these two represent if they don't fit the squad. We saw yesterday that, we can do fine without them if we need to. Not saying that means I just want them gone. I'm just saying they're not essential, like I said. Amorim said everybody gets a clean slate and everyone has a chance to train and play a role. So maybe there's a chance this also could just be a blip in their first month under a new manager. But as Amorim said, it's up to them. They have to want it. He said that about Rashford, like his first press conference. He has to want it. It's up to him, right? Something that Amorim said that really stuck out to me, though, and Sports Predictions touched upon it earlier, is his remark about standards. He said, when people at our club are losing their jobs, we have to put the standards really high. And that's it right there. Standards. For far too long, players have signed for United, got a new contract, scored a great goal, like Sports Predictions said, and thought, that was it. That was the goal. Job done. I don't have to try anymore. I did what I needed to do. I can just chill now. Like, wearing the United shirt is a responsibility. It's a privilege that so many people are never going to. I would give my left arm to wear that shirt for just 5 minutes on the pitch. But it's a privilege and a responsibility that you have to live up to and maintain each and every day. You have to earn the right to do that, and you have to earn the right to wear that shirt every single time you set foot on the pitch. It's not a given. It should never be treated as a right or an entitlement. That is something you earn, you live up to, and you maintain that responsibility day in, day out. It's a promise to your manager, to your teammates, to your owners, your club, the fans, that you will give 110% each and every time you set foot on the pitch for this club. It's a promise that you will do that in remembrance of the people who came before you, that you'll do that to honor the fans, that you do that to show that faith in that from the manager and the owners and the club itself was not misguided, that it is they were right in backing you. Budget cuts, staff redundancies, ticket hikes, none of it has been a good look. But amidst all of that, if players on $300K a week can't be bothered to even give half a shit in training, a message needs to be sent. And the message was sent yesterday. Hopefully the message was received loud and clear. The only way to tell, though, is going to be from what we see from Rashford and Garnacho moving on. Only Rashford, Garnacho, and Amorim are going to really know what's going on. It'll be up to them to decide. But really, it's up to Rashford and Garnacho to decide. Like Amorim said, the players basically pick the teams. But Rashford and Garnacho, at the end of the day, are at a crossroads right now in their United careers. They're at a crossroads in their professional careers. And quite frankly, they're at a crossroads for them just in their personal lives in terms of what they want to be as young men. The choices that they make. They can choose an easy route that is just coasting, going to this. They can choose the easy route of just giving up. They can choose the harder route to try, to adapt, to be a little selfless, to push themselves. But they have to choose it. The question is, which road are they going to choose? That's the question. And we're going to find out. Time will tell. Bandomac saying, just popping by to say hi. We'll watch tomorrow as it is late here. Yeah, man. No worries. Appreciate you guys stopping by. As always, loving the conversation. Get your thoughts in, get your questions in, get your feedback in. I'm kind of rambling, but I felt it was something worth discussing. The fact that Rashford and Garnacho really have some hard choices to make. Amorim has already had to make a difficult choice. I'm sure it wasn't easy for him to drop them. But he saw something that, we don't see. And so that's what we do. Happened with Sancho. It's going to happen again. It is what it is. I mean, Casemiro didn't even make the squad for the FA Cup final last year. I mean, or maybe, no, it was the Carabao Cup, maybe. Let me know. I can't remember now off the top of my head. But if you saw the way that he looked towards the closing minutes of that semifinal against Coventry City, it wouldn't be surprising to know that maybe he just wasn't in it. So you guys let me know what you think. I'll leave the chat open for a hot second. I'm going to check and see if any news or anything has popped up. Let me guys know how you're enjoying your day. Not really any other matches going on. Obviously, Bournemouth and West Ham drew 1-1. That helps us. Inter destroyed Lazio today 6-0. That's embarrassing. Not a whole lot else going on right now. Any matches tomorrow? Got some Coppa Italia. You guys rock the Coppa Italia? Probably not. Got a lot of non-league stuff going on. That's pretty much it for me on the Rashford and Garnacho stuff until there's any sort of changes or any new information comes to light. That's probably going to be all for me in terms. I didn't want to talk too much about it because to say anything else would just be speculation on what people are thinking or feeling. And again, I don't know. All I can do is what we've seen so far, what we've seen recently, and that's it. But as always, I want to know your thoughts. So get your thoughts in. If you weren't able to catch the live, no big deal. Like Bandomac, watch it, leave a comment. I'll respond to all the comments. Kyle Lacey, if you're watching, you won the shirt in the giveaway, the 2K giveaway. Hit me up, United States of United at gmail.com. I'll get you the shirt. I'll pop it in the mail. Hopefully you get it before Christmas. I got myself a new jersey today. So when that gets here, you guys will be the first to see me wear it. But you guys know I can't resist a jersey deal. So till the next time, thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you, Richie, United TV. Thank you, Sports Predictions, RSV, for everybody getting involved. I do appreciate seeing everybody getting their thoughts in. You guys make the channel what it is. You guys got it to 2K. You guys are the channel, basically. And I'm just happy to be here to facilitate the conversation, to add my 2 cents in. But mostly I'm here for you. So thank you guys. Please, please, please hit the like button on the way out. Oh, no, Danny boy. Sorry, bud. Yeah, I just went live around dinner time. Dinner time, this 6:30 for me, 6:37 is probably going to be my normal kind of time now. It seems to be the time that works best for me, and seems like it works best. But you guys let me know if it's a good time for you or if you want something else. I try to not go live around like when Rich goes because I want to go watch his channel and I want you guys to all enjoy his content as well. So, but let me know if there's a better time. Seems like this time people are usually out of work and whatnot. So until the next one, I will see you guys. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for getting your thoughts in. Trying to be too harsh in the comments. Just tell it like it is. And I will take a look at the comments overnight. And I will see you guys for the Spurs preview. Remember, we got that match on Thursday. So we'll come back and do the preview for that. Until then, thank you. God bless. Talk to you later. Bye.